Okay, we are going to get started here. Thank you for joining our partner edition for Teams as a Platform, why Valo Solutions. We're going to focus today on the employee experience, and today's session is hosted by Joel Olson. And let's do a round of introductions. My name is Dan Rotolo. I'm part of the Valo Solutions partner team in North America. I'm joined by Ilya Lazaroff, who is our technical partner team manager. And our host with today's session is Mr. Joel Olson. Hello, Joel.
Hey, thanks a lot, Dan. It's great to be here with you all. I've been a fan of Valo for many years, and I feel like this is a great opportunity to see what they've been up to, but also really being able to dig into this whole wave that Viva is bringing, and this whole Teams as a platform, or Teams as an organizing layer, Teams as a front end. Lots of energy around where we've been with SharePoint, where we're going with Teams and Power Platform, all this Microsoft 365 goodness. I feel like there's so much energy and momentum that by lack of us not being face to face hasn't necessarily slowed it down. There's so much that's been going on behind the scenes.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for joining. We appreciate it. And let's get started. We got a lot to go through today. We're going to do some demos along the way and sort of integrate it into this story. But Joel, would you like to review the agenda?
Absolutely. So this particular session, we're going to focus on kind of three primary areas. First, we're going to help you understand what all this momentum is all about, this emphasis on the employee experience, this momentum around Teams, and what's been going on with bringing SharePoint into that, as well as kind of what Power Platform and this Viva Wave brings to it. But we're really answering this question of why Valo Solutions, and beyond that, there's really the key meat. This is a sandwich. The meat in the middle here. We're going to focus on 10 opportunities, things like classic to modern, and so many more. We want to focus on what are these 10 opportunities that really services companies really should be paying attention to and looking for these opportunities. But before I get started, I want to just give you a little bit of background about myself. I've been working in this space for a long, long time. In fact, it's been 20 years. That really ages me. But 10 years at Microsoft, both as a contractor and full-time employee in IT and in the technical product management marketing team. But I've been able to travel around the world and connect with communities on every continent. And it's been fantastic to be able to be part of this massive momentum that has been the kind of the Microsoft community around collaboration, communication, productivity, intranets, all this goodness that's been happening here. You may know me from the InfoPath funeral or the Teams wedding. I like to have fun. And anyway, it's great to be here with you all. And like I said, our agenda, we want to talk about the Viva Wave. We want to talk about classic to modern, these 10 opportunities. And ultimately, it should absolutely answer the question, why become a Valo partner? If you already are a partner, we want to help you understand and catch up with the latest and greatest, help you understand the roadmap a little bit. And if there's next steps for any and all who are on here, we want to help you understand what that path looks like. So this first section, hang tight, hold on. Here we are, the vision and opportunity. From Inspire, you may have seen Jared Spataro talking about Teams as the new front end. Absolutely, Microsoft is doubling down on Teams. And on top of that, there's major investments in Teams as a platform. You may even hear them talk about Teams as an organizing layer, Teams as a front end. But when you actually look at how these things stack up, the productivity apps that is Microsoft 365, the store, whether it's enterprise apps or third-party apps, that really help populate a rich, connected experience. And the new layer here we have is Viva, where essentially we're getting these modules from Microsoft around the experience platform, the employee experience. Like Viva Connections, I kind of see this as the doorway to the rest of it, where you can essentially pull through SharePoint and a lot of investments you've made previously in the platform, or maybe it's greenfield and you're looking to bring in some kind of new intranet experience, a new modern intranet type of experience. There's the Viva Topics. We'll talk a little bit more about awesome opportunities around that, but also opportunities that will be coming related to Viva Learning and Viva Insights as well. Those org analytics and all the integration that can happen. Lots of partner opportunities in that layer for sure. And if you've been keeping up, you will notice that the whole Power Platform has been a major investment. And you talk about custom and third-party apps, year over year, we're up 10x. So when you talk about what's been happening with the Power Platform layer in terms of the low code, no code, and even pro code solutions that are being built by customers, the business themselves, and even partners and even going beyond that, building solutions with Visual Studio. There's the SharePoint framework, GitHub, the various aspects of Visual Studio, and even Azure DevOps, where you can really build out very rich environments. And when I say environments, I mean that literally as well. In the cloud, being able to have full dev, test, staging, production environments with Azure DevOps, building out rich Azure solutions to be able to accomplish business problems that have been being done at cloud scale. Incredible things being built with AI that have never been even thought possible. Really cool stuff. And Teams brings all this together with a common, simple interface. When you start talking about this alignment of those layers, Valo actually adds an additional simplified experience of being able to bring in these enterprise experience, like the entrance for managing the accounts and the guests and so on, being able to have better governance around teamwork, around being able to manage external users. And then we also have things like the extranet and intranet and beyond with things like ideas. There's so many different modules that you can actually plug in based on customer needs that provide kind of an additional presentation layer that can help solve the problem that customers are like, I don't want it to look like SharePoint, or I don't want it to look like Teams. I want a rich experience. And that's a lot of where Valo starts and grows from there. Now, some people have heard about Viva Connections, and I hope many on here have. Ultimately, this is a great opportunity to engage with customers and to start having some of the dialogue around what Viva Connections, this message from Microsoft around Viva Connections in terms of bringing SharePoint into Teams. And it ultimately is this ability to essentially take a SharePoint site, your home site, essentially, the root home site with official news, being able to bring global navigation with the app bar that essentially is brought from SharePoint into the Teams experience, being able to pull in your hubs. At a minimum, you should think about that effort. A lot of customers are not going to be able to do this on their own. So they'll either be reaching out to you as partners, or there's an opportunity for you to be able to present this vision of, hey, you've made all this investments in legacy SharePoint, or even people who've been using Teams, they've been looking for ways to bring the enterprise and communication from the enterprise into Teams. And Viva Connections allows you essentially to bringing it in by building an app package and a script to generate that app package that then can be packaged and uploaded into the Teams App Store and pinned prominently for everyone in the enterprise. And that's a great opportunity to engage. And this is just kind of scratching the surface. But I think that a really important message here is that Viva Connections is plumbing. And what I mean by that is if you've got a customer who has a really weak intranet, it's still going to be weak when they plug it into Teams. Seriously, there's a Viva Connections is not an intranet; it's plumbing that essentially helps you bring a home site into the Teams experience. So this again is an opportunity where customers may have seen a demo by Microsoft or someone in the community and have thought, oh, okay, Microsoft's got a new intranet for me. Again, this is an opportunity for partners to kind of see what's happening here and to be able to help them understand, no, this is plumbing. This is generating an app that we can then upload, but ultimately we need to make sure your intranet's actually up to snuff before we bring that in. So Valo is your accelerator. And what I mean by that is it's so far ahead of the competition where a lot of these other intranets that have been built in the past, they went kind of sideways. A lot of them built on Classic, a lot of them they kind of went on their own, and they didn't really take advantage of building on top of modern SharePoint. And with Valo Modern, you've got kind of that accelerator of whether you're greenfield and we're looking to deploy something, or if they had already done that, there's a lot of acceleration that you can get because it's module based, it's very pluggable. The time to value, if you're talking about being able to help a customer see the vision of how they can actually get an intranet in a very short period of time. And there's a lot to back that up with the awards that Valo has earned over time, being recognized as the best intranet North America, Europe, year over year for many years. Now, as well, there's a lot of customers who are going to be thinking about, should we build something? And even partners who may be thinking, oh, well, we can build an intranet on SharePoint out of the box. But often what you'll find when you do that is is it good enough is often a challenge. And especially when you start talking about what can we build in a short period of time. And while I'm a big fan of the lookbook, and I think it's a great way to be able to help customers kind of see the beginning of the art of the possible, and especially with hubs and these investments in your team sites and consistency and site scripts and site designs. Lookbooks are great for getting things started, but when you start talking about how many eyeballs are going to be looking at the intranet, it does make sense to have a more significant investment in that intranet experience where you do have more control and a better consistent look and feel for the users. And as well, you'd say, well, couldn't any partner go out there and just build something? I think the last couple of years, there is that where we've been from a perspective of how many partners out there have tried to build something, and then when Microsoft updates things, they can't keep up. Anyway, ultimately, what I'd like to say here is that this buy versus build, it's an accelerator. So if we can understand that aspect of module-based accelerator, it doesn't have to be build versus buy. It can actually be buy and build, where you can actually start with this accelerator and then build the essential modules and components that the customer is asking for, in addition to what you get with that initial platform. And when you start saying, well, what are the things we should be looking at in terms of getting ready for this Viva Wave or getting ready to deploy Viva Connections, I've basically picked a ton of different things from a different number of waves, preparing the intranet, like getting the from classic to modern, or getting from on-prem into the cloud, setting it, the root site, setting your official news, setting up personalization. And you think about all of these different things. Absolutely, there's a lot involved in something like personalization or in targeting. There's a lot involved from a metadata perspective or from a targeting perspective? How do we figure out what groups they're in or what locations they're in so that we can actually do that? Do we want to build out Microsoft 365 dynamic groups as an example? That information architecture of hubs. So many customers have not even started with hubs yet, but the what can be done with hubs from a logo perspective, site designs perspective, kind of that pushing down the brand and pushing down colors and being able to really bring in a richer experience can really improve the employee experience. And as well, a lot has been going on behind the scenes from a search perspective, the search connectors, the acronyms, taxonomies, people profile, all those things, office location. There's a lot of those things that have been built, but many customers have not even scratched the surface on what's possible from a people search perspective. And when you start trying to talk about connecting experts to data, well, those profiles actually need to be populated, and finding those people can, especially these days, of knowing where to find people can actually be quite important. And then there's the future wave of what comes right in the next few months from a vision perspective of looking at the Viva Wave, whether you start with Viva Connections, looking at Viva Topics, maybe it's SharePoint Syntax along with that, Viva Learning, Viva Insights. There's a lot in terms of being able to have a number of touch-based points with the enterprise around this massive employee experience, and especially driven based on the cloud. So let's look at these 10 opportunities. We've broken down 10 opportunities that services companies have in terms of this wave, and looking at Teams as a front end and the Viva Wave. I call it low-hanging fruit, but essentially these are opportunities that allow you to integrate and engage with customers. So the first one, we talk about classic to modern, and there's a discovery that you need to do with any given customer. Hey, guess what? We can run the modernization scanner. Let's figure out what's already modern. Where do we need to spend our time? I'm not saying every single site needs to be migrated to modern, but definitely from a top-down perspective, you are going to look at how we can take advantage of this. And Viva Connections actually helps double down on that opportunity of classic to modern, because when you bring those SharePoint sites into Teams, if it's not modern, it opens in the browser. If it's modern, it opens inside of Teams. So there's a lot of extra incentive, both from a search perspective, as well as those pages in the navigation in the app bar that you really want to focus on. Let's make sure that we're modern. And if you're looking at working with the line of businesses, sure, let's do some art of the possible with Valo. Let's do some art of the possible with the lookbook. Let's find out where the customer's at, and let's talk and start getting the conversation going in terms of creating a good branding experience as well. And with that, I do want to bring Dan in, and let's talk about what's one of these art of the possible kind of modern communication. When you start talking about who is vested in Viva Connections, who's vested in being able to have a really good intranet communications and official news channel.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Joel. We appreciate it very much. Let me get into our demo environment. All right, great. Can you see my screen okay?
I can see your screen.
All right, perfect. So, the takeaways from what Valo brings to the table is our modern core components, being Azure, SharePoint, and existing APIs. And what I mean by that is that Valo is following Microsoft best practices. We are totally integrated with 365. So all of the apps and everything else are inherent with the solution, even using out of the box SharePoint here, for instance. We're 100% built on SharePoint using the SharePoint framework. And that's really important because as you lift the hood, right, of the branding component here, you've got the workloads. And the workloads could be enterprise content management inside of SharePoint. It could be line of business integrations to critical business processes inside SharePoint. It could be a lot of different things around analytics and so on. So when Joel talks about Teams as the front end, we always have to think about SharePoint as the back end. So I think that's the biggest takeaway from Valo, is that we are a very mature product, but also having a product roadmap, and it really goes beyond in the way of personalization. So if you look at just what we're seeing here, we've got a sliding bar of information here, and within the personalization, we're allowing socialization, right? A way for adoption and people to take part and participate within the platform for all news and all web parts and everything else that's going on through comments, through likes. We also have the ability of predefined quick links that you could use as a self-help portal to reduce redundant requests, and also a solution portal. So you could go to a line of business system or a critical business process and so on. So these things are important as we look at what Valo brings to the table. The other thing is the ability for audience targeting. So when we look at this temporary alert banner, this could be audience targeted for a location, and then multi-purposed to the homepage or the corporate site as well, through multiple hub sites, through multiple pages, and so on. And that's really the theme as we go down into the web parts that we have here. And we have all kinds of things, from bringing in social hubs to be able to have subscribe news. So as I log in, I could see what I care about, what I want to work with, and so on. So really cool stuff. But as we take a look at this, and we're talking about Viva Connections and sort of the Teams wave, let's look at what Viva actually looks like. So I'm in 365 right now with my intranet, right? My SharePoint homepage. Now I'm going to go into Teams, and I'm using Viva, right? So this is Viva showing exactly what's on the other end, right? So when Joel talks about plumbing, then we're talking about presenting what's on the other end with Viva, and everything that I just showed you is now here as well. So again, what Valo brings to the table on our roadmap is really the personalization and how you work. So let's take a look at this and get into our Valo Connect. Okay, and now you can see some personalization that's come into the 360 experience of the intranet. And what I mean by that is the ability to set up predefined quick links and tabs on top of the intranet experience that might have that enterprise search experience, right? It could have the self-help portal. It could have the solution portal. It could have the people search, so I could get to the places that I work and the people that I work with quickly. As Joel goes on in this presentation, we're going to talk about critical business processes. We're able to bring in a common Power App, which might be a requisition form to kick off a workflow. We might be able to bring in a Nintex workflow or a common workflow from Power Automate as well. And then if you notice to the left-hand bar here, we've got applications. So when I download, the Teams app on my phone, and then I connect to my company intranet, I actually have applications that are presented on the bottom of Teams. And from that, I can get into groups. This could be an innovations group. It could be a executive management group. It could be a team site that's been around for a while, like HR, right? For HR onboarding or so on. Or it could simply be, an HR department that's representative of a SharePoint site. And that's real important here as well. So if I go into my applications, I'm actually going right back to an HR site that I want everybody to go to right away for different things. And then again, this is personalized with my login, so I could get to my personal action forms, or if I'm an HR department employee, then I can go into my HRIS system, or even my critical business process around employee working. And we can do this and navigate through our mega menu. And our mega menu is then security trimmed. So I get to see and participate in what I'm allowed to do, and my role and responsibility here as well. So as we move forward, we're going to talk about other things as we go on into this presentation. We're going to come back to teamwork and teams governance, and we're also going to take a look at Valo adoption with analytics. And we look forward to having those discussions as well. So back to you, Joel. All right. Joel, are you able to take
Thanks,
it?
Dan.
There you go.
Yep.
Perfect.
I appreciate that. That was great to be able to kind of see this art of the possible and what's possible from a perspective of, when people envision an intranet, it's nice for them to be able to actually see how it actually brings in that experience in a consistent way, and being able to be much more fluid, and what they're looking for is what they see. Often I think about those things as like targeted news is very push, but that subscription idea of pull and me being able to choose what I want, that could be really powerful from a news perspective as well. And I frequently see that on intranets. So when you think about SharePoint or Teams, a lot of you've probably even heard these monikers of SharePoint gone wild, or Team sprawl. Well, these things don't have to be the case. You can absolutely build a very solid information architecture with that top level home site, which is your intranet, your window into the enterprise, with the departmental hubs or functional hubs, line of business hubs. And in preview from Microsoft is this hub to hub association. If you've got departments that have divisions and so on, being able to bring those together. And with the dynamic Microsoft 365 groups, the investments in the dynamic aspects of being able to bring people in as people go from one department to another, and you want to be able to have people be able to consume that information dynamically, even from a security perspective. The structured Microsoft 365 groups that are maybe more top down or more easily defined can be structured and plugged into those hubs. And then you've got your ad hoc unstructured sites and teams that may or may not be associated with hubs as well. And what that gives you is top-down search, more personalized, even the ability to have news that then is aggregated and populated through the mobile device or the mobile app, which is from a news perspective as well, much more personalized, and bringing in the tasks that are across these things. So you can imagine just how much more cohesiveness there is, and the global navigation that can happen as data itself is more structured from a global navigation perspective, that hub aspect to this information architecture. And you can see a lot of really great things. Sue Hanley has some really great information. Mark Anderson, they talk about, the world is not flat, or the world is flat from you don't have to create a site within a site within a site. You use the hubs to organize your information. And when you start talking about the power of a hub, and you start leveraging, and this is where partners absolutely can come in, this is an opportunity. Let's talk about branding. How does HR want to apply site scripts and designs and templates from a provisioning perspective? such that when someone creates an HR site for the new recruiters, there's a new recruiting site. Well, let's plug that into HR, but let's push down the HR colors. Let's push down some site designs. Let's push down a navigation element that can then be applied and essentially give us a consistent experience. And that's what hubs can actually do for us. They give us a flow. The site designs can be applied via flows even. So as well, one of the things from a services perspective is you think about that new app bar, the new app bar that pops up in SharePoint, the new app bar that absolutely gets plugged right into Teams. And you think about your global nav, your news, any customer who's seeing these things happen is saying, hey, this isn't very good news. I'm only seeing, old stuff. Well, how can we work with these customers to make sure that they're actually getting the targeting that they expect and that the global navigation is exposing the right hubs, public information they should be seeing, appropriately trimmed, and a good, consistent experience? Because the app, even the mobile app that's going to expose all this even more, we want to make sure that it's actually a good experience, a good employee experience, and that's absolutely where customers are going to be looking for partners to give them guidance. And think about this as well from a line of business perspective. And even, when you think about this architecture that Microsoft has kind of put together here, we've got the pro code, low code experience of working with this stack. We've got Azure AD as our identity, and yes, you can do even dynamic aspects of dynamic groups with Azure AD, or being able to build your Microsoft 365 groups. There's the communication services from Azure. Everything's built on top of the graph. Our backend for our application data is Dataverse. Speaking of opportunities, there's customers who are going to be looking to do migrations into Dataverse. And the security additions that it provides, including some updates to DLP, which provide data scanning in the Dataverse, and hence another reason to bring your data into the Dataverse. There's the logic layer with Azure and Power Platform, and then the components. Here's another place where partners do have an advantage of being able to plug in connectors, leveraging the Fluid framework, building out adaptive cards into that Teams interface, and this nice thin layer of what Dan's been showing, kind of that intranet aspect for the enterprise, teamwork for team governance and discovery, the Connect Me, which actually brings in the personalized, targeted, and brings not just tasks, but so much more of what's going on in my world and what I should be aware of and know about, that's evolving from the various groups that I'm connected to, and tasks that are being assigned to me in various applications, not just in Microsoft 365. And I like to think about this from a maturity perspective. Every customer is in a different spot. And how do you understand what's the next step? So a lot of customers, they may still be at that initial phase of rolling things out. There's a lack of trust in the platform. So they're looking for, let's start with the commercial off-the-shelf apps. Let's maybe look at the Adobe or the DocuSign or Workday, Salesforce. Let's look at the commercial apps that you're using already today, and those kind of off-the-shelf apps. Then we start saying, well, hey, we've got some best practices that are happening here. Let's actually build some templates, and whether those are team templates or SharePoint templates, where we're bringing in proper applications, or even the app templates. There's some really, really cool Power Platform app templates that are very, very pluggable, very easy to see. Even the lists, Microsoft Lists has some great app templates that are very repeatable, allow you to incorporate best practices. And you think about this from an environment perspective, being able to have a dev environment where the line of businesses can actually kick the tires, build out some apps in Power Platform, and your ability to support that by being able to create separate app environments to be able to support true biz apps. Then we work on our next layer, taking the next step, and we start looking at a more structured, managed end-tier environment, preparing for what will come with Azure DevOps and a pipeline. Ultimately, when we first get into this, we're looking at the line of business and saying, can you support this? And when I think about working our way up here, we're building out our center of excellence. And as partners, you may be saying, oh, well, the more that I allow my customer to build all this stuff themselves, doesn't that work myself out of this? No. They're actually going to be looking for, hey, this is my go-to. I want you to be my mentor. You're my trusted advisor. Help me help myself. And as you work with the various lines of businesses to structure a more and more mature environment, you can imagine building out multiple environments, understanding who in the business are creating the apps, what are the connectors they're using, governance around connectors, governance around apps, an approval process. I mean, we could talk for a few hours just about the idea of governance in the Power Platform space, understanding the flows that are happening, and talk about business critical. There's a lot that can and should happen in this space as people get more and more mature around Microsoft 365. Now, when we think about Viva Topics has launched, and we have seen SharePoint Syntax and this investment that Microsoft's been making around AI, being able to do extraction and extracting metadata, but also building out the knowledge center, this topic center, as well as just really being able to increase our ability to actually unlock the data that's in these systems, connecting experts to knowledge and knowledge to experts, and really being able to find the gold in our content and being able to connect these sites with the people who are actually using it. And the graph getting enhanced. Think about this from a partner perspective of partners helping build out the taxonomies or helping train SharePoint Syntax to be able to do extraction that's going to improve search. And speaking of search, there's so many things that have gone on behind the scenes in terms of your ability to integrate acronyms and bookmarks and floor plans and locations, finding people, finding experts, and finding the data, and actually being able to bring not just out of the box Microsoft data, but actually integrating data sources, whether it's the CRMs, ERPs, and other, all the different acronyms, all of our content management that's out there, being able to really leverage and connect our data for a richer, intelligent intranet, intelligent search experience. And I'm going to hand this back to Dan to talk about both the external side of this as well as the team's governance side of this.
Great. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Let's see. I'm going to request control back. I don't know if I really needed to do that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that you want to show your screen. Great.
Okay. And you see it okay?
Looks good.
All right, super. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about governance. Governance is something that Microsoft has thrown into the fold in a lot of different time periods, right? Since 2010, the 2010 server went head to head with the big boys of enterprise content management, and really started the revolution of governance and policies and retention policies and records management within SharePoint. The next revolution of governance was around SharePoint Online, right? Being able to take away, the different things that the infrastructure teams would have to do, and now housing your content within the cloud. The next wave of governance revolution really is during the pandemic, right? With Teams, and the way that Teams has had so much adoption over the last 18 months alone. It's really incredible. So when we look at Teams as the front end and always think of SharePoint as the back end, now we've got even more of a responsibility to talk to our clients and prospects about governance and about your current work experiences, right? So what we're looking at here is our 360 view, Valo Connect within Teams. We've got the personalizations to how I work and the people that I work with. So we were talking about that personalization. I'm going to go out of the branded experience here into Connect Me. And Connect Me gives you one interface of everything I care about, everything I do, and one place to get to from you know, how I'm knocking down my tasks throughout the day, right? So I've got a personal kind of welcome here with this experience. I can add widgets all over the place, from task management, from graph to-dos, to approvals from Power Automate, etc. From this interface, I could actually see my go-to people, the people that I interact with on a regular basis, and what documents are accessed by me, what are my trending documents, what are my shared documents, etc. But then we're getting into things that are within a team site. So if I click on this, I could click on and go to the native application where these documents are housed. These events are from my Teams calendars, etc. And then I've got my conversations, my latest conversations from Teams as well. I can personalize links and things that I want to follow here. And then even my news, my topic subscriptions and things that I want to keep track of. If I work from a Power Automate queue, a workflow queue all day long, and I'm just knocking stuff down, I could do this from here and then go to that native workflow and approve, reject, or comment on it, and so on. So pretty powerful stuff here. But again, we're interacting with Teams from within Teams and from within the intranet experience, right? From applications, from team sites, and from departments that might be within SharePoint. So, and by doing that, let's talk about our teamwork product, which is Teams Governance. And this is really the lifecycle management of Teams. And we're looking at this in a very fine and structured manner, very organized manner. And we have this in common throughout our modern search experience and our presentation within Valo. So here we have all of the groups or the team sites that I have as I log in and that I'm participating in, and every team site has a SharePoint site in the back end, right? So within this, I could search and filter by the different templates that I have set up. I could search and filter by a team site that's been archived and so on. If I'm working within a 6-month project or have a priority to certain team sites, I could favorite those as well. I could search holistically throughout all of my team sites here with all of the documents and bring the documents that I need to work in right away. I could do the same with discussions. And why this is important is because out of the box with Teams, it's cumbersome to search, it's cumbersome to scroll down and find the right information that I've been working with. So to have this organization, we provide a request workspace, which is a workflow. It's a way to set up a template and go through a provisioning workflow. So then IT has visibility and management when they approve or reject, or even make sure that employees are adhering to policies and setting up team sites. And why that's important is because every time a business allows a user to set up a team site, without knowing it, they're setting up a SharePoint site and a 365 group and all kinds of other things. So in this case, what we're doing from the user perspective is we're allowing a structured way to set up a team site. And we can have all kinds of different things within this template. Here I'm allowing external users to come in. And Joel was talking about our registration portal for the extranet as well. And so when you become a partner of Valo, you go through the process of a branded registration portal. And what this does is it allows temporary and permanent users to come in from outside of the tenant who aren't a part of the licensing inside the tenant, right? So they're coming from outside and they're being provisioned into a specific team site or a specific SharePoint site to do collaboration. This could be partners and clients and auditors and different folks that are outside, contract workers and that kind of stuff. So clicking this allows external users to come inside. We could set up project dates on certain start and end dates. If we have a line of business application that looks at a project ID number, we could set that here to be linked. And if we have multiple different project types, we could select what type it is specifically. And then when we hit submit, we could actually then go back and wait for approval. So IT then has a dashboard of approvals, of pending items, and basically the life cycle of a team site, right? So we have an auto archiving, and when that is then expired or the project end date has happened, then we have auto archiving. And again, IT has visibility to come back to that team site, documents and other things that are within those team sites. So within my modern search experience here, I'm going to type in MANU. And when I do that, I'm going to bring back all of my Valo manufacturing team sites. And I'm going to be able to then, from this information panel, I could see all of the applications that are associated with this specific team site. So here, I'm going to go into the native application. And when I do that, I'm going to go into the manufacturing team site. And this is the teams that we all know and love. Here, you'll notice, of course, I can add tabs and applications. Again, we're integrated within 365, so we have all kinds of things that we can add here. But if you notice, we have the Valo Connect, right? That 360 view, the personalization that I mentioned earlier with the tabs and so on, we can add that as an application right within a team site. We can also bring in the application for Valo Ideas, which is innovation management or ideation as well. And I actually have that right here. So I'm going to go into Valo Connect, and from within any team site, we can bring in those personalized tabs, predefined tabs that I could bring into a specific team site to be able to, go outside and search the web, because this is a research team site. I could have the home site to the intranet and have certain things visible to me. I can have the search experience here as well, because this is a team site that's been around for a long time, so we have an accumulation of files and documents. So I could then filter by different criteria around PDFs, around authors, around different timelines and so on. And then from a partner, you could take these assets and then start, in sort of SharePoint, right, which is the back end, and go into the branded experience from here. So why this is important is because we're getting to all of this through the application called Valo Connect, right? And on top of it all, we're also allowing the ability for analytics. And when I say that, we're now talking about the productivity of an employee and having the ability to measure that from the hub, from site analytics, and more importantly, devices. And why this is important, because again, going back to current work experiences, the devices from people that are working from home, that are out and about, or maybe essential workers today, can be measured, right? And here we're measuring from very specific timelines for page views, from user views, from top pages. This is a representation of a web part that we could see the adoption of the web part. And we can easily see, hey, this isn't working, let's try something else, or we need to add some more information here to get it adopted, or anything like this as well. We're looking at top links and how those are being used, and navigation, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things that are going on here that is on top of SharePoint, also on top of Teams, and then we're now measuring the productivity per employee and the employee experience. And that really takes us back to today's theme with the employee experience. Okay, Joel, back to you.
You know, I really like that analytics piece you were just showing. How many times have you been talking to corporate communications and they're frustrated with what analytics they can get? But being able to extend that and having a platform where really the customer can ask for anything, and then it being able to come back, that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, it's really big when you're measuring the annual spend of an employee, and you're budgeting from a subscription standpoint or budgeting for employees, and looking at the productivity of Teams management and so on. It really shows a lot holistically.
And tell me when you can see my screen. There we go.
Yep, we can see it.
All right. So I think this last section is an important one, especially for this particular webinar. And I'll let you continue on talking about this benefits of becoming a Valo partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, we've got 2 slides here, so let's start with this one. And I think some of the things that you could pick up through today's discussion is the fact that we have some strong core solutions and a strong roadmap that really goes into how people work, and growth and extensibility, right? So again, we are a templated solution so that you, the partner, can work within a framework, and then extend that framework from business requirements and customizations and other things around how the client needs to work, right? And so we do that in a lot of different ways. We're aligned with Microsoft best practices and the Microsoft pillars that Joel was talking about today within communications, within applications, collaborations, and productivity. So as we do that, then that's when we're talking about the intranet as a whole, integrated and on top of SharePoint, Connect being the 360 view of personalizations of the intranet within SharePoint, and then Teamwork, which is really the governance and teams management as well. But there's a lot more, as you could see here, as we go into highlighted features around the social hub, ideation, and so on, even entrance and being able to provide a branded experience through temporary and external users into the experience to be provisioned as well. We could go to the next slide here. And then when the next slide, the value proposition really from Valo is Valo has the ability to execute time and value within a single digital workspace. Bridging the gap to intranet maturity, reimagined on Teams, Valo Solutions are flexible and focused to gain adoptions. So becoming a Valo partner means that we take great care in onboarding you, understanding your partner profile, understanding your core competency and the way that you work, so we can integrate our story and enhance that story without being a disruption. And so when we do that, we're offering mentoring, best practices, sales enablement, and then going through learning and continuous education, so that when we work with you on having your own demo environment, you're having your own implementation, right? And bringing that demo environment into yours, and then understanding go-to-market strategies, sales enablements, way that we can help with your pipeline, lead generation, everything else as we go into continuous enablement. And then being able to help with different things like our partner community. We have a lot of different things going on that shows the different aspects of our roadmap, new versions and so on that are coming out to enhance your experiences, and even our customer clubs, and being able to look at the end users and having them come up and have some personalization and understanding, again, what's on the horizon, what's aligned with Microsoft, and how we can make things better. So that's really a little bit about becoming a Valo partner. Hope you got some good information out of today's session. We'd certainly like to go a lot farther. There's a ton of information here. We'd love to talk to you a little bit more one-on-one about how we can enhance your partner story and help you grow your business. So thank you very much for your time.